Do You See What I See is a pilot project developed as a community curators initiative. It is managed by the Participation Team in partnership with Leicestershire County Council's Market Town Museums and our Collections team. This project designed to seek alternative voices from a range of community groups about our museum exhibitions and explore individuals' personal connections to them. The main purpose of Do You See What I See was to engage with new audiences and encourage them to explore and make connections with our collections in Charnwood and Melton Mowbray Market Town Museums. We wanted to attempt to find an alternative label that gave the viewer an emotional insight into an object. We reached out to our community groups who would not traditionally engage with heritage and asked them to commit to just 2 workshops. We gave them the opportunity to reflect on the notion of heritage and their understanding of it and explore more about their own identity.
And when you arrive at your object, stop, and I'm going to record your story or your connection to that object. Does that make sense? Okay, follow me.
So these were really lively sessions. Our approach was to ask people to just spend 5 or 10 minutes walking around the galleries and choosing one object that really stood out to them. It made them stop in their tracks. They could either love that object or they could hate that object, but they had to tell us why that object was important to them. And we carefully walked around the galleries and we listened to each other's stories about why that object was important to them.
Today I was walking around the Charnwood Museum and I really like the part with the forest animals because that brings me nice memories as well. When I was walking with my mom, with my sisters, playing around the forest, picking the fruits. Just warming my heart when I see things like that.
Originally I'm from Poland. I was growing there, so the cultural of Poland is inside me. But when I moved in England 7 years ago, maybe you will laugh now, the first thing what I've seen, it was visiting museum. Because this is about heritage. This is about this place, about this part of England, this part of Leicestershire, where we're growing, where we're living. So it's really good to know how this place looks 200 years ago, 300 years ago, and what was changing. About amazing story about Bell Factory, about Lady Bird books. So this is still part of people who is living here. So to understand this will also give us better understanding of place where we're living now.
The object that stood out to me today is this, and the sword. It reminds me of survival, how to survive back in them days. To this day, how important it is having certain objects that we need to survive.
Okay, it's a good day today because it helps you your social skills. Instead of being recluse, feeling sorry for yourself and thinking all the ifs and buts and why you're in the situation that you are, it's good to get out, meet new people, learn things that you've not learned before, about the cultures, about your history, about your past, and just making the effort to get out and try new things. So it's a good idea, these workshops, because it helps people like myself, just little things to do. It breaks up the day. Instead of sitting around, sitting in the room, feeling sorry for yourself, get out there, meet new people and keep your social skills alive, because you don't want to shut off just because you're homeless or certain things happened to you in the past. There's always other people out there who can help you and say, look, this is on today, or why don't you try this? So that's the reason I've came here today.
The second workshop consisted of a show and tell approach where we encouraged people to bring in an object that they owned from home and to share why that object was important to them. People gave us some fantastic stories, how they had overcome personal difficulties, health issues, but most importantly, people were just genuinely grateful for being asked and given the opportunity to say what was important to them and to share their personal connections and memories associated with those objects.
For the People's Gallery, I've chosen my Sooty collection from the 90s because I've had them since I was a tiny baby, and I hope to give it to the next generation.
And why were they important to you?
Well, this Sooty in particular is important to me because it was what my parents used to get me to speak when I was a tiny baby, my first words were actually Utti or Sooty, and they were endeavoured to speak through using the Sooty puppets.
And why was it important to help you speak, Esme?
Because I had a cleft palate and talking was very difficult for me.
The next step was to revisit all the community groups that we'd worked with and invite them to contribute to creating a Do You See What I See community exhibition at Charnwood Museum. So people were invited to bring in an object and have that on display, to share the label that they'd created explaining the emotional connection they had to that object. We have listened to some very powerful and moving stories, and we've discovered that every object can be a powerful trigger and tell a unique story.
Feel and we walk like that with two and we put one in here like that.
And for those people that felt that the object was too precious to loan, we wanted to include them and make sure they were still part of that project. So we created the concept of a people's gallery, an online museum, and people can actually have their photograph on there of themselves, of their object, and lots of stories and personal anecdotes about that object.
The Do You See What I See project has had a real impact here at Charnwood Museum. It's been great to see people who wouldn't normally visit or engage with us coming into the space, having a look round, and then also sharing their thoughts and feelings. The display that you see here has just been a taster of some of the stories and the objects that have come together. So these groups and the individuals within them have been working on these projects for quite a while now, and it's really good to finally see the exhibition here in the museum. And it's been fantastic for Charnwood Museum because we consider us to be at the heart of our community, and to be able to have individuals from groups that haven't been represented previously come in and do these projects and put this display together has been absolutely brilliant.
Whilst Do You See What I See started out as a small exploratory pilot, it evolved into something much bigger and far-reaching. Our participation team are now using the model of engagement and co-curation we developed in this project and replicating the good practice in other community-led ventures. Do You See What I See clearly demonstrates how our museums, collections and libraries have a significant impact and improve people's well-being, nurture community cohesion and reduce social isolation. Do You See What I See has been a huge success story for many reasons, but mainly because of the contributions from our participants who really made our community museums more community-led.